Chip Roy is a dear friend of mine. He's a congressman. I think it's the 21st district in Texas. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. He is deeply concerned about some of the economic activity that Congress is involved in, and he's deeply concerned that so much of the country is shut down. And I wanted to bring him on to discuss it. Chip Roy, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thanks for everything you do, and thanks for being a voice for sanity right now when we need it. America needs to work. That's what makes America great. America's great when we're working, and we got to get back to work as soon as we can.
By the way, it's the 21st, right?
Yes, sir. You got it.
All right. Here's the thing. The media and the critics of the president seem to think that the only way to defeat the virus is to burn down the country. That seems a little drastic to me. We're rational human beings. Again, there's areas of the country that are largely unaffected. There's populations that are heavily affected and populations unaffected, pretty much, or they get the virus and get through it relatively easily, but at least they're not facing death as opposed to other people. The data is in. On the other hand, when we have these broad brush policies that shut down businesses all across the country, and by the way, Chip Roy, it's not Trump doing this, it's these governors doing this. He hasn't shut down a single business. He doesn't even have the power, I don't believe, to do it. It creates enormous problems. So what do we do about this?
Well, first of all, we do exactly what you're doing. We got to keep having a conversation about how important it is to get our economy started. And I'm getting tired of these people who say, oh, you're just choosing 401ks over people's lives. It's like, well, first of all, I can tell you the 401k matters a lot to my parents for the little bit they need to be able to retire on. But more importantly, an economy is about lives. Jobs equals lives. Putting food on the table is someone's life. I get entertained or really, frankly, ticked off at these local county judges and mayors and these little tin pot dictators that are making decisions about people's lives when they declare what is and is not an essential business. Because you know what? Any business is essential to its owner and the employees that work there, every single one of them. And they're going around saying, well, it's okay for you to have the supermarket down the street running because all of us need to have our food at home. But they're going to decide that certain businesses have to shut down or that cleaning maids can't go into houses and do their job. And then all the central planners effectively are deciding how we live our lives. I got into it with a Dallas County judge this last week where he was out there saying that, attention, other non-essential businesses who aren't complying, don't be next. Attention, everyone, report violators at Dallas County. And I tweeted at him, I said, well, Mr. County Judge, sir, I can only assume that you and the good people of Dallas County are going to pay all these people back for taking their livelihoods in what effectively amounts to a regulatory taking. Because I'm sure he's not going to rely on the federal government to bail him out. But this is what we're dealing with, Mark. And so we've got to all highlight it and point out that this is irrational undermining of our ability to take care of ourselves and have our livelihoods to take care of our families.
And Chip Roy, the end of January, we were being told by Dr. Fauci that this would be the equivalent of a bad flu, that the American people don't have to worry about it. Now we're told there would have been 1.5 to 2.1 million dead, but for mitigation, if we didn't have any mitigation. Now, I don't know about you, Chip Roy, but I don't need the federal government ordering me to do the right thing if I know doing the wrong thing is going to make me ill. My doctors know this, states know this, hospitals know this. In other words, the idea that we see thousands and thousands of people dying and nobody's going to mitigate is ridiculous. So they throw these numbers out. Then they throw out 100,000 to 240,000 the other day. My neck hurt. I got such whiplash. Then we go one day, it's going to be the worst ever. To the next day, it's flattening out. Can we at least admit the science isn't perfect with respect to looking at the data, and that the science, if you follow the science, really it gets a little bit complicated, not because the science per se, at least the public aspect of it is complicated, but because the models are confounding in many respects.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, we saw a lot of the modeling today. Actually, had a lot of data demonstrating how the numbers are a lot less than people were projecting. But here's what drives me nuts: is I see these people and friends of ours, friends of yours and mine, on the right even, who will say, "Well, look, this is all because we've been reacting and we've been doing all of the social distancing, and that this is why all the numbers are looking good." Now, hold on a second. Okay, there might be some truth to that. I'm not saying don't socially distance. I've been out there on Twitter telling people to, separate, do all the right thing. You have too. We all want to make sure we get through this. We have loved ones we care for. My dad is 77 and a polio survivor. My mom is 71 and has some lung issues occasionally. I want them to be sequestered. We're trying to help make sure they do that. But going out and screaming to the American people that 2 million people are going to die, and you wonder why everybody's retreating from their economic activity, you wonder why we have 10 million jobless, you wonder why we're going to have people now that are going to be facing, no doubt, suicide.
2 million people. Let's think about this, Chip Roy. The latest numbers, and it's their numbers, certainly not mine, deaths worldwide are over 70,000.
Right.
You're telling me 2 million people were going to die in the United States when 70,000 so far, according to their own stats, have died around the world? And that doesn't even compute, does it?
Well, and this is the thing. Like none of us, I'm looking at, Boris over in the UK, and we're looking at people that, are getting hit by this. And clearly it has some bad elements to it. And we want to make sure people are okay. But to sit here and scare the world with numbers that make no sense, where you're taking these, they're not even models, they're just fingers in the air, and they're throwing them out there, and they're causing the American people to freak out and panic instead of going through this logically, and you said it, allowing us to use our own judgment for the most part to make rational decisions. Do I want to go to a barber right now and have him be like right in front of me cutting my hair?
No.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I don't want to be sitting next to somebody in the middle row on an airplane. But maybe I would choose to separate every other seat on an airplane. Or maybe I would choose to go
How
to a
about this,
restaurant.
Chip Roy? Why don't we ask these business people what they would do to mitigate? I'll give you an example. You go to a grocery store lately? I have.
Yep.
They're mitigating.
Yep.
You go to a gas station? They're mitigating. You go to a pharmacy? They're mitigating. In other words, there's a lot of businesses, particularly small businesses, that can do this. They have the plastic shields between the cashiers and the customers. They have gloves and masks. They have the hand sanitizer. I mean, they're doing all kinds of things. So why not give other businesses the opportunity? And more than that, why are governors shutting down businesses in states that barely even have this virus?
Well, I'm glad to see that there's a number of governors who haven't. There's a number of locals. There was a Maine.
I believe there's 8.
Today. There's 8. You're right. And there was a Maine sheriff today who basically told the Maine governor to pound sand. He's not going to go around and check people when they're driving around the state of Maine. And we need more of that. We need more rational human beings who are going to step back and say, no, this isn't a police state. This isn't Nazi Germany. This isn't Russia. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is have common sense discussions about what you can do to make things better.
Now let's slow down. On the other hand, Chip Roy, if you happen to live in the epicenter of one of these epicenters, you stay home. You conduct yourself quite differently. If you're an elderly person, you conduct yourself quite differently. If you're a person with one of these I can never say this, these morbidities, you conduct yourself differently.
Yeah.
But if you're not, and you're not in these epicenter areas, well, you conduct yourself differently.
Well, right. And even if you, as you know, and some of your listeners know, I'm a cancer survivor. I had to take the last of shots to build my white blood cell counts and make sure I was careful to not be around people and get sick when I was dealing with it. As I said, my dad, he's 77, he's a polio survivor. Even in Texas, where we're not in the epicenter, I'm still encouraging them to stay removed as much as possible. We're rational human beings. We want to stay alive, so we will make good decisions. But what we're doing is we're confounding it by making it more complex and scaring the American people. And look, the real consequences on our economy. I mean, I'm having a conversation tomorrow with 50 oil and gas producers in Midland and Central Texas and down in Houston who they are getting hammered, Mark, absolutely hammered because of what we're doing with the economy. Every single day I talk to restaurateurs in Central Texas, hoteliers, guys that run barbershops, others. They're dying. And these loan programs and this $2 trillion bill, you're not going to go get loans to go try to restart your job to hire people when they can get more money from unemployment insurance because of a stupid program from Washington.
Listen.
Saying,
why are you lending money to a company that's not permitted to work? To people who aren't good. Here, I have a question for you, Chip Roy. It's not a trick question. What's the number of asymptomatic cases on this virus in the United States? Do we know?
Yeah, no, we have no idea.
We have no idea whatsoever, do we?
No, we don't.
We don't even have enough to make projections, do we?
No, we do not.
We're taking 1.8 million tests now. We still don't have enough to make projections. And so when you do a nationwide, or how about this? You have colleagues in the opposite party that are demanding the nationalization of industries, that are demanding national stay-at-home rules, that are demanding a dictator when they complain that Trump was a dictator, when Donald Trump is trying to work within the constitutional boundaries, and you have governors doing all this stuff.
No, that's exactly right. They don't even understand how the system works, and it's the irony, right, where they run around saying how they called him a dictator. Now they want him to act like one. It's never good enough. But at the end of the day, right now, our hope. I mean, look, I was talking to businesses, mortgage bankers today, talking to folks at the Hospital Association. You're right, furloughed, healthcare workers. We've got a few weeks.
I'll slow down a second. People don't understand healthcare workers are being furloughed.
No, it's extraordinary.
And you know what else they don't understand? The federal government in that last bill nationalized the private capital markets. $4.5 trillion. That's the entire capital. That's more than the capital markets. That's more than mortgage companies loan out every year.
Well, and here's the thing, and what people don't understand is that right now we have a few weeks, I think, based on everybody I'm talking to. I mean, I'm talking to some of the smartest business people in the world right here in Texas. We've been leading the world's economy for years now, who is telling me we've got a matter of weeks to get this thing restarted, or they're going to start having serious problems being able to get to the point of being able to ever restart. Because once you start cranking it down, right, it's like you turn your car off and you put a cover on it and stick it in the barn, right? We're not talking about just keeping it idling. That's the problem, is people don't understand the depth of the economic harm if we don't turn and get around this bend and get this thing going really quickly. And I think that's what the American people need to understand for our livelihoods, our kids, our grandkids. We got to save this republic by making sure we get everything started again.
You know, I like the way Bill Bennett put it the second hour on this program. He said it's called a livelihood for a reason.
Yes. And that's the thing when people, that's what I said before about the 401ks. Oh, you're saying you got to start. Look, your job is your life. That's how you pay for your food, your well-being, how you care for your parents, your kids, your spouse. And we've taken that away from people. I mean, Mark, you and I both know it may or may not be illegal taking under the Constitution. It could be, arguably, but you've got government stepping in and taking away your livelihood, taking away your right to be able to at least try to go out and make a living. And so that's part of the concern here, is about how government now responds to that, to now get out of the way, let people do what they need to do, encourage people to go back to work, and then figure out how to get some capital in some reasonable way.
This is what the president's up against. Look at the Daily Mail. Quote, difficult decisions ahead. Donald Trump raises the prospect of lifting the lockdown, knowing people will get infected because we can't go on like this, and the cure cannot be worse than the disease. What they're saying is, as a result of that, Donald Trump is going to be killing people. Now, it's interesting that they say that when you read now an enormous amount of information about people, quote-unquote, elective surgery. We talked about this last hour on this program. You know, elective surgery doesn't mean you don't need the surgery. Elective surgery means, you can put it off a couple of weeks maybe, or a day or two or so forth. It means you're not in the ICU unit and so forth and so on. But for a lot of people, elective surgery, if they don't get that surgery, they're going to die at some point, and maybe some point sooner than most. So the problem is you're going to have all kinds of ailments as a result of this in some respects, people putting off. You're going to have, and the Lancet Institute did a whole thing on this, when you have a major recession, the number of depression and suicides, people can't cope a lot of times when things so horrific happen to them economically. So this is not everybody mitigate and then we'll get through this. It's everybody mitigate, and we're going to create a lot of other problems too.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned
1
that.
minute.
I wrote a piece in Fox News over the weekend talking about that, about how I think, like you, the president needs some other advisors advising him in his task force, because he needs to get some more perspectives than just doctors, Birx and Fauci just sort of coming in on high saying how things need to be. And after the Great Recession a decade ago, they showed that 10,000 suicides were increased as a direct result of that in Europe and North America. And you go through all the data points of the impact of a negative economic situation on people's health and well-being. And we're running around and ignoring that and that part of what needs to be done.
All right. Chip, I got to go. Chip.
Yes, sir.
If people want to help you and support you, you're running against a very nasty person, the former woman who ran for what, lieutenant governor?
Yeah, she ran for governor against Governor Abbott in 2014. She got beat badly.
What's her name again? Wendy what?
Wendy Davis, yeah.
Oh, my God, what a radical. If people want to help you, where do they go? Quickly.
ChipRoy.com. I could use the help to make sure that we, send a conservative back to D.C. instead of that radical leftist Wendy Davis.
And you're a crucial freshman. Take care of yourself. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.